Hello, everybody, wherever you may be, around the world and from sea to shining sea. From the four winds of the world, welcome back to the Shack in Oregon. This is Ham Radio Live. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. We appreciate it. We give news and information that's good for ham and shortwave operators here daily. And we include you in the show because, hey, you're really the stars here. Just after you subscribe, because it helps people find the channel here on YouTube that might have an interest in ham or shortwave, especially those people who would like to get their ham radio licenses. So you doing so means a great deal to get exposure out there, so folks looking on YouTube to get their license can maybe find the way here, which is good. Thank you so much wherever you may be today. A very, very happy Wednesday. Today is May 5th, 2021. Welcome to the show, everybody, wherever you may be. My name's Larry. My call sign is Kilo 7 Hotel November. It's my honor and privilege to see you today, even though I look like I just got out of bed today, for goodness sakes, but there you go. Welcome, welcome. Today's show should be a fun one. I hope you enjoy it. We have a lot of news and information for folks that are both in the shortwave and ham hobbies, as well as a look back and a look forward at amateur radio, where it was, believe it or not, 70 years ago in amateur radio to today. You're going to love it, I hope. Welcome to the show. Before we do anything, we want to let you know, if you'd like to get into ham radio and get your license, we would love to have you do that. Ham radios, you're going to find out in this show, is not what you might think it is. As much as television has changed in the last 50 to 75 years, so has ham radio. You'll see that today. Please contact the American Radio Relay League if you'd like to get your ham radio license. These folks can help you do it. Contact them at www.arrl.org. Trying to get the words out. Sorry. www.arrl.org. Over in the UK, they've got a great group of folks there called the Radio Society of Great Britain. Find them at www.rsgb.org. In Canada, the Radio Amateurs of Canada, they stand at the ready to help you get your ham radio license. Yeah, instead of just listening, you can transmit once you get your license. Find out how at www.rac.ca. And in the Southern Hemisphere, we have you covered. Contact the Australian Communications and Media Authority at www.acma.gov.au. Hello, everybody. Now, I do want to we'll do our welcomes to everybody from around the world. We typically have 4 to 5 continents watch the show daily, and I, again, sincerely thank you for that. It does mean a great deal. First, welcomes in the house. Hello to Martin, all the way in Holland. Welcome to the channel. Papa Echo 9, Tango India Golf. First up today. Thanks for coming, Martin. A very happy Wednesday evening to you there in Holland. John is here from Canada. He's going to be a ham radio operator. Yes, he is. He is Victor Alpha TBD, and we're grateful he's here. IT Guy, Whiskey 6, Union India is in the house. Hello to you, and welcome to the state of California. Hello and good morning to you, my friend. And Martin with some really good words to help motivate everybody. Go get your license. You can do it. You absolutely can. That's true. That's true. And it's a great time to do so. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments. We have James Stanley. His call sign, Mike 7, Bravo X-Ray Tango. He's here from the UK along with his mate, the pup. Yep. He's got his puppy, who is Mike 7, Bravo X-Ray Tango Slant K9. Welcome both of you into the show today. Thank you very much, James. Scott is here from the state of New York. Scott, it's an honor to have you back. He's in North Boston, New York, and a big howdy from him. His call sign there. Kilo Charlie 2 Charlie Alpha Delta. Thank you, Scott. And one of the best DX people in the entire world. There's very few that get over 300. This is honest truth. 300 countries is a huge number. Think of the countries in the world, right? Or places where you can get contacts with. This man actually has over 340. His name is Sean. His call sign is Mike 0, Bravo Juliet Lima. Sean, it's an honor to see you. Thank you for the kind email. I appreciate that. And thank you for the kind congratulations on show 200. My brother, his call sign, WIFI, downstairs by Wi-Fi. Bob, welcome to the show. All right, we are going to get you started here today with some information, some news that'll help you, hopefully not only today, but tomorrow on the ham bands, as well as some news and information, okay? I'll be monitoring today on 14.317. If you'd like to make a call on the show and we can make it work, I'll do my very best to try and make that happen. It just depends on timing and what segment we're in, okay? First of all, we have ham radio news for you that will hopefully help you wherever you are in the world. All right. Notice of direction was made by the Falkland Islands Communication Regulator addressed to those who hold or have held a Falkland Islands amateur radio license typically identified by call signs with a Victor Papa 8 prefix, okay? Pursuant to Regulation 10, radio communication licensing procedures, and this goes on to talk about it. What it basically means is that you have a certain amount of time to get this license application in to the government there in the Falkland Islands, okay? Pursuant to Regulation 10, radio communications licensing procedures, Regulations 2019, the Falkland Islands Communications Regulator hereby directs and gives notice to all holders of Falkland Island radio licenses falling in the following categories: amateur radio license, full lifetime, amateur radio license restricted, as well as those two classes. And then it needs to be taken care of. You have until the 31st, you must revalidate your license by August 31st of this year. If you don't, you could have a little bit of problem, okay? Any notice that is not revalidated in accordance with this direction will be deemed to have been terminated on September 1st of this year, okay? The former license holder must not carry on any activities that were permitted under the terminated license, and if the former license holder wishes to carry on any of the activities permitted under the terminated license, they'll have to apply for a new one. This is the third and final opportunity to seek revalidation from the Falkland Islands Communications Group there. So keep in mind, if you're in the Falklands and you do have some sort of a license there in the Falkland Islands, the Lifetime License Award is very, very important, okay? It's something that if you don't get done, you're going to wish you did, okay? Next, Beauvais Island. This is going to be a big DXpedition. Beauvais is like the Mount Everest of DXCC, according to the ARL. 3YOJ, DXpedition co-leader Paul Ewing, his call sign November 6, Papa Sierra Echo, said it's among the most challenging entities to activate due to significant transportation costs and personal sacrifices required by the team to make the 42-day round trip. Now, this is by ship. Now, Beauvais Island is literally just a little bit north of Antarctica between South America and Africa. Now, fortunately, Beauvais is not our first mountain. That's a good thing for them. So they're looking at doing this in January to February of 2023. So keep that in your calendar for QSO cards. They're looking for sometime January, February 2023, but the planning stage to activate the second most wanted DXCC in the world is well underway, with team researching polar quality tents and equipment and discussing antenna specifications with various manufacturers. Ewing said, "We'll make careful choices to help us meet the demand for Beauvais contacts. The 3YOJ team has set a goal of at least 100,000 contacts from Beauvais. You can follow the expedition plans from the DXpedition website and on their Facebook page, all right? There is a group, the North American QSO Parties, recognizing young contester entries. Yep, to encourage young radio sport enthusiasts, National Contest Journal will recognize their entries in the North American QSO Party, starting with the August 2021 North American QSO Party, Morse Code, and SSB events. Following the lead of Youth on the Air, an international Amateur Radio Union 1 operator, if you're 25 years old or younger, you'll be highlighted in the results of the contest. That's right. The NAQP log upload app and 3830scores.com will include a youth 25 and under checkbox. Initially, the young operator designation will apply only to single operator entries, okay? This is not a separate category. Participants of any age will compete for awards in the regular single operator category. 3830 Scores will display the young operator's scores as an overlay to the single operator group. The National Association of QSO Party line scores will note the young operator's scores, and a separate table for these scores will be included in the results and referenced in the National Contest Journal. Next Gen Contesters columns done by Neil Rapp, his call sign Whiskey Bravo 9, Victoria Papa Golf. Propagation forecast today. Well, it's a little bit different than yesterday. You see 80 meters is now fair. The reason for that, we have a K index of 1. So K has risen to 1. A is down from 5 to 4. SFI, we still have an SFI number of 70. Now we're looking for that number at the top left to increase to right about 77, maybe 78 by the middle of this month. What does that mean for you in the ham and shortwave hobby? What it means is propagation is going to improve. So hang in there for the middle of the month. That's when we should have some better conditions. Now, there obviously always is that wild card of coronal flares. So we just have to watch and see about solar flares and solar storms, because as the sunspots come around, we end up getting more opportunities for those. So we'll keep you posted. But today looks like 40 meters looks great this evening, and 30 and 20 are in fair condition, and daytime 40 and 80 are both fair. Solar 25 looks like it's going to peak sometime in around July 2025. However, there are people who are suggesting this might be a little bit late. Many folks are thinking the actual peak for solar cycle number 25 is going to peak sometime in late 2024. So keep an eye out sometime between September and February 2024 to 2025. That should be right about the solar maximum when we get our best propagation we'll have in about 11 years. Solar conditions right now, SFI of 70, an A index of 4, and a K of 1 at Boulder. If you're in the UK and you're trying to do some short path propagation, here's the current information from the United Kingdom. If you're on 20 meters tomorrow, 20 meters tomorrow at noon. So at high noon, this is the forecast, 20 meters for a 100-watt dipole using Morse code, and that dipole being at 35 feet. If you want to run 80 this evening, here's the difference. See how now we're not quite so good? That's because of the K index. All right. If you're interested in getting into shortwave or you'd like to know more about it, please get a hold of one of these. This is the Shortwave Listener's Bible right here. It's called the Radio TV Handbook. It's a global directory of global broadcasting. It's celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. Find it at your local bookstore, or you can get it also at Amazon.com. Great place to find out where you can find out where those radio stations are broadcasting from anywhere in the world. Hello, everybody. It's great to see you, and thank you very much again for coming. So, shortwave, ham radio, a lot of stuff going on. Good propagation today, especially on 40 meters. So, folks in shortwave bands, if you're going to be running 49 meter band, you should be fine. Ham bands, great on 40 tonight. 80 is going to be a little spotty. 20, you might make some good calls today. The conditions still appear that they should be pretty good, okay? We're going to get into 20 questions where we ask you 20 questions about ham radio, but the whole goal of it really is to help people get licensed on the air. But before we do that, we're going to get into a segment about how far ham radio has come. Ham radio has come so far in the last 70 years, I'd like to show it to you. Let's take a look at a 70-year-old radio. And by the way, speaking of 70, today was the very first day that the United States launched an astronaut into space. Yes, Alan Shepard. Flight was today. He also walked on the moon today, strangely enough, 10 years later. So 50 years ago today, he was on the moon. 60 years ago today, he was in orbit. All right. And I said the first man, John Glenn, was our first. Sorry about that. All right. Let's get into how far ham radio's come. You might think ham radio is one of those nerdy hobbies that has these gross-looking radios that just have no personality whatsoever. And you'd be way off the mark. Let's show you what radio maybe looks like to you, or you think it was. Here's a 1955 Helicrafters. It's made by the company called Helicrafters. It's an S76 model. Also comes with a separate receiver, because back in the day, ham radio was done with a separate transmitter and a separate receiver. Let's take a look at that.
Well, today we're using a really old rig. This rig is about 55 years old, and it doesn't have the greatest signal in the world. In fact, it doesn't even have a very good signal. It's a Heathkit DX40 right here. The rig is about 55 years old, runs about 50 watts output, but in those days they measured it by input, which was about 75 watts input. And the receiver is a Helicrafters S76 receiver. And that receiver actually seems to be pretty hot. It compares fairly favorably with my Flex receiver. One thing you're going to notice when I make this contact is that the signal isn't particularly stable, and you don't have a very good sound to the signal. You have to adjust the AGC and bring back the sensitivity. It gets to be fairly complex. You had to tune in the old days because people weren't right on your frequency. So this is going to be a little bit of an event. And I know the capacitors in my DX40 are not the greatest, and so I have been getting reports of a hum, and the Heathkit VFO also tends to chirp a little bit. You know, bok, 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 bok. Well, that's what it tends to sound like. But guess what? With the bok, 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 and a little bit of hum, people tend to come back to you, because every ham tries to help another ham, and they're all trying to say, well, your signal has a problem with it. I don't know if some of it is helping and some of it is bragging that their signal's so good but yours sucks. So we'll see which it is. So we'll take a look and see what kind of contact we can make. We first have to tune up our DX40 though, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Well, in tuning the DX40, first we want to get about 3 mils of grid current. So we put it in the grid position. We put it in the grid position and see what we have. And that's about 3 mils. We're going to adjust this up to about 3 mils of grid current. Okay, so that's all set, and I'll tune the receiver. I'm going to cut back the sensitivity on the receiver so it doesn't blow us out here. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to put it in the CW position and put this switch in the plate position. And in order to get a resonant, to tune for resonance, we are looking for a dip in this meter up here. So let's do that. Okay, we have a dip, and then we increase our antenna tuning to do a match, and then we dip again. This is a little bit of a balance on back and forth, and there we are, there we go. And now we're tuned up and all ready to go on the air and make a contact.
There you go. So that is how you work. Believe it or not, that now, no joke, is 70 years old. Wow. So again, and pardon the mistake, it was Alan Shepard, and that's my fault. Please forgive me. I do have the history correct. It is 70 years ago today and 60 years that he walked on the moon. That is today in history. All right. So there's the Helicrafters, and you may think ham radio is just kind of old things, and they don't have much personality. Kind of like using an old General Electric radio from back in the day that didn't have anything but just a dial and a volume knob. Ham radio has changed so much since then. It is totally a different thing. As much as your television has changed, ham radio has changed as well. Let's take a look at just three. And I picked one from each manufacturer. I'm not going to pick the best one from everybody's choice. It's impossible to do that. But just to show people who are not in the hobby just how much ham radio is today and how technically cool it is and how wonderful these receivers and transceivers truly are. Now, no longer do you need a separate receiver and a separate transmitter. They're all in one. They're called a transceiver. That's why they're called transceivers. They both transmit and receive. Here are three from the three main manufacturers in ham radio: ICOM, Kenwood, and Yaesu. First, we'll kick off with ICOM. This is the ICOM 7610. This is their current model that they're making. This actually has two receivers built into it. For folks that are not in amateur radio, that beautiful screen that looks like kind of like a waterfall display, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a cascading waterfall. That's what it's called. It's actually called a waterfall. And each one of those trails that goes down, it looks like water trailing down, is actually a radio signal. That's part of how some people find ham radio signals. You can actually see them today. You don't have to just look. You can even point right on the screen and click right on to the signal. That is the ICOM 7610, and that's just one example of how much ham radio's changed from the old days of that Heath kit. Let's take a look at another one. Here's one from Kenwood. Excuse me, this is the ICOM one. It was mismarked. This is from Peter over at Walter Stanton. Enjoy. This is the Yaesu 991A.
My name's Peter Walters.
And this is why Larry needs a new computer.
My name's Peter Walters, G30JV, and I'm located here at Europe's Ham Radio store at our demonstration room here in Hockley, Essex. And we're going to have a look today at the new Yaesu FT991A. Now, as the name suggests, this is an upgraded version of the original FT991, which was introduced about a year or so ago. It's proved very popular indeed. Now, there's quite a few videos around showing the various features of the FT991, and in fact we ourselves did one with Justin G0KSC shortly after the 991 came on the market. So today we're looking at the two main features that separate the new model from the old model. So let's take a closer look. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to have a look at the colour screen itself. That is one of the most significant features that you notice as soon as you switch it on. And I'm going to come in a bit closer now and try and show you the screen itself. It's not so easy to see the various colours because some of the display digits and wording are quite small. But you can actually go into the menu system and you can actually set up different colours. Now at the moment,
there you go. So there is Peter over at Walter Stanton in Europe talking about the Yaesu 991A. Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM are known as the big three. Now, there are many other ham radio manufacturers who make transceivers in ham radio, but you see how different they look today. Notice the big screens. Now, that one was a small one. I put that in purposely because two of these are, kind of expensive. I mean, the first one, the ICOM 7610, can run right about $3,000 US before tax. The next one can run you right about a little under $3,800 before tax, brand new. It's the Kenwood TS890S. and it's beautiful. Look at all it can do.
Hi all. Today we've got a demonstration of a Kenwood TS890S that is up for sale. Beautiful transceiver. I've been using it for a couple of days now and very impressed with it. I also got the big monitor on it. This monitor obviously is not included in the sale. It's one of my computer monitors that I've just hooked up to the back of it. But I've been comparing it with the K3S, and it's very good indeed. And to be honest, I prefer the audio coming out of this than the K3S. It's just better quality. Anyway, we'll have a listen round on 80.
Yeah, man, so we must go down and make one for her now.
I've got the, oh you can't see up there, I've got a noise reduction and noise blanker 1 and 2 in. I'll just take those out. Take the noise, take the noise reduction out first.
So you could put on top of your 897. Quite a smart
Just go to quiet part of the band. Put the noise reduction in. This is noise reduction 1. And if you go to noise reduction 2, sorry, pressed it too hard, just a minute. That's noise reduction 2.
There you go. You see how much ham radio has changed just in the last 50 years. It's phenomenal what the differences are in ham radios. From going from a transmitter and a receiver, which were separate, into one box that looks like that is pretty cool. If you would like to get into ham radio, maybe it's something you've always wondered about, you know, talking to somebody in a different continent, literally from the comfort of your own home, contact the Radio Society of Great Britain. They can help you get licensed wherever you are in this world. Find them at www.rsgb.org if you're down in the Southern Hemisphere. Australian Communications and Media Authority can help you. They can be found at www.acma.gov.au. All right, my friends, we're going to welcome Tom from Bahrain. Tom, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure and honor to have you. And yes, an 890S is on my wish list too. Rob is here from Michigan, Kilo Bravo 8, India Bravo X-Ray. Welcome to the show, my friend. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. And from Germany, we've got Gunther here, and we're grateful that he's here because when Gunther's here, it just becomes more fun. From Germany, Gunther, his call sign is Delta Kilo 5, Oscar November Victor. He's a real wonderful guy. He helps us out in the chat with Tom. And if you have any questions, he'll be happy to help you. Thank you for coming, both Tom and Gunther, and all of you today, wherever you may be, right? We're going to start now with 20 questions to help people get licensed. You know, like if you're going to contact those folks down in Australia and say, hey, I'd like to get in ham radio. How the heck do I do that? Well, we're going to start now by playing the old 20 questions game. Today is the second highest license class in both the United States and the United Kingdom. In the U.S., it's known as the general. In the United Kingdom, it's known as the intermediate. So, if we let her roll, what do you say we start the show? The goal here is not to be a substitute for your study. The goal here is to help you remember things for the test, okay? There's a big difference between those two things. I'm going to try and give you things that help me pass and hopefully will help you pass as well, or at least understand them. Now, keep in mind, if you don't understand something, if something is just, you're not grasping it, right? You're having a hard time, feel free and email me. Find me at cqhamradiolive@gmail.com. cqhamradiolive@gmail.com is my address. Ask me about questions you might have about amateur radio, and I'll do my very best to help you get on the air, okay? First question today on the second highest level in the US. By the way, you can get from 0 to the top license class in the same day in the US. That's a true story. So keep in mind, the harder you study, the higher you can get, and that means more frequencies, which is pretty cool, okay? All right, let's get this going. Time to play 20 questions. We'll see how you do and hopefully help you get on the air. First question. Which of the following describes full break-in telegraphy, which is known as QSK? Break-in telegraphy is basically done when you transmit. I'm sorry, I got cut off here. It looks like, there it is. Sorry. Okay. Basically, transmitting stations can receive between code characters and elements. So when you're breaking in, what this is somebody's, listening, right? And they have something to say. And this is on digital modes, okay? It's like you're text messaging. You're texting someone else because you could do that in ham radio. So you're texting someone, let's say in Canada, right? And you live in Germany, okay? And you're having a nice conversation. Somebody all of a sudden in Africa comes in and they want to talk, okay? The way to do it is you wait between code characters and you basically send your call sign. You say break, and that's how you get in, okay? And typically, it's very easy. The folks, if they can hear you, will certainly welcome you in, okay? Next question on the U.S. General. When may the FCC restrict normal frequency operations of amateur stations participating under races? Okay, races, remember, is an emergency group. They help in times of emergency. Well, the only time the FCC, according to the rules, does this is when the president declares war. That's it. So remember, if the president's war powers have been invoked, then that means that we basically turn off the air. In fact, throughout all of World War II, there was no ham radio anywhere in our world. It shut down, literally shut down. By the way, tomorrow's show, please come. It's going to be phenomenally cool. If you're into numbers stations, clandestine spy radio, tomorrow is your show. Next question on the U.S. General. What does the expression CQDX usually indicate? CQDX means the caller is looking for any station outside their own country. So all you're doing is adding the words DX to CQ, and that means you're looking for a caller somewhere outside of where you live. So if you live, say, in the United States, you're calling CQDX. You want a call back from another station that's not in the United States, all right? Next question. Which of the following would disqualify a third party from participating in a station message over an amateur radio? Here's the $75 question. My goodness gracious, this was bad. All right. So to put it in layman's terms, when can someone not use your radio? That's really the question, okay? The answer is if they're a former amateur radio operator who's had a license has been revoked and it hasn't been installed. So if somebody has been, ripped off the air because they did some stuff wrong, you can't let them use your radio. That's it, period. Okay, unless they get it reinstalled and make everything right, you have to just say no. That's the way it goes. No matter how close you are as friends, it's not worth losing your license over. Next question. If a person has an expired FCC-issued amateur radio license of general class or higher, what is required before they can receive a new license? Now, you've got your general ticket. You've had it for a while. 10 years is the length of time we have our license here in the U.S., so you kind of forgot about the expiration date. Uh-oh. It means you've got to retake the test. Yep, you've got to pass both the technician as well as the general exam. You do that, and you got your license back. Make sure you know the expiration date of your license so you don't have to go through all that headache, because the ham radio license test changes. Think about how much technology changes. Look at the changes we just showed you in ham radio, right? Think about how the test has changed too. It has tremendously. There were no questions back in the 50s and 60s on digital modes and solar panels and all this. None of that existed. That's on the test now. Next question on the U.S. general exam, second highest level in the U.S. What's the maximum symbol rate permitted for radio teletype, RTTY radio teletype? We're going to do a segment on radio teletype, by the way. You'll love it. It's a great segment on RTTY, how it works, what it is, all that. It's going to be great. So what's the maximum symbol rate you can use for it if you're on the 1.25 meter or 70 centimeter band? So either one, right? You can use 56 kilobaud speed. That's the maximum symbol rate you can use when you get up way up high on UHF. So 56 kilobaud is your speed for radio teletype data transfer, okay? We've just got a couple of more US. Here we go. Next question on the US. This is the general license. Which of the following frequencies is in the general class portion of the 40 meter band? Now, it's important to know the band. it's very important you understand the bands before you go to the test. It's not difficult. And I'm telling you, folks, it may sound to be totally overwhelming, but it isn't. You can do this. You really can. The band plans aren't hard to figure out because they pretty much repeat each other over and over again. Okay? A good example, 40 meters starts at 7, ends at 7.3 in the US. 20 meters starts at 14, which is twice of 7. It ends at 250. So, see, you think about it. 160 starts at 1.8. 80 starts at 3.5, right? So they're both kind of similar. You don't have to memorize a ton, but it will help you, okay? In this example, when it asks which of the one is on the frequency of the general class, the 40-meter band, it's the top one, 7.250, because 7.5 is actually a shortwave frequency, and it's not part of the ham bands. We can't use that frequency. Neither are the other two. They're both completely off 40 meters. If you ever get confused about this, there's a simple equation you can use, 300 divided by frequency. That will give you an approximation of the frequency. Now, there is a caveat here, okay? It doesn't always work. It just doesn't always work. You'll show like 41 point whatever on 40. So keep in mind, it's not always accurate, but at least if you go 300 divided by 4, 40 to 100, you're going way over 40. What the heck? That's not even close to 40. And you'll know that the last two don't match. So 300 divided by frequency will help you. Okay. Next, when is an amateur station permitted to transmit secret codes? Secret codes. I want to say it, the secret codes. And the reason I keep saying that is because tomorrow, clandestine radio, secret codes, spy stuff, all that on tomorrow's show. Yep. It's a real neat show about real radio that's out there that spies listen to. When is an amateur station permitted to transmit codes? You're basically controlling an object. If you're using secret codes to talk to somebody, you could be in jail. Don't ever do that. Not even as a joke. Don't have like a pretend word you use between the two of you, because if somebody from the amateur auxiliary hears you and finds you out, you could be in some trouble. Don't ever mask codes on ham radio, ever. Last questions that are on the U.S. General Exam for today. And we're waiting for the computer to load it. Brilliant. Yeah. I think we're ordering it today. I think I'm done now. Okay. What precautions should you take if you install an indoor transmitting antenna? The answer is make sure that the maximum permissible exposure, there's that word, MPE, limits are not exceeded in occupied areas. Now, this is important because as we go up in frequencies, we learned last week, you go up in frequency, MPE limits how much you can transmit if you've got an indoor antenna, because it could really hurt somebody. It starts by heating body tissue, which can destroy a person's body. And the most important thing to remind you of, don't ever do it if somebody in your family or in that home has a pacemaker. It could kill them. Okay? All right. Next and last question for the U.S. What must you do when powering your house from an emergency generator? First thing, disconnect the incoming utility power feed. Okay? You do that, you'll be safe. And there are 10 of the 20 questions. Okay. We'll get to some goodbyes here in a moment with a sign-off. I need to take my brother and I for a coronavirus shot. No joke. UK, here we go. First question. A good way of helping prevent any stray RF energy from entering the mains wiring would be to, the answer is to fit filters. See that? Fit the filters in the leads from the power supply to the radio. That's what you have to do. So just prevent your stray RF coming in, and you just put the filters in the leads from the power supply. Notice where it says to the radio, because that's preventing RF from entering your receive chain. All right, next on the UK intermediate exam today. The blank box in the following diagram of a superhet receiver should be labeled. And see, it's blank. It comes first from the RF amp and tuning stage. You have your local oscillator, which transmits a certain frequency. That's usually set by the factory. It goes into a mixer. Then it goes to the intermediate frequency amplifier and filter, and then blank before the audio amplifier. The answer is a demodulator. This is where the demodulator goes in a super heterodyne design, okay? You put the demodulator here, you have a complete 5-piece super heterodyne design radio, and you're good to go and listening. Next on the UK intermediate exam today, an antenna matching unit, also known infamously as an antenna tuner, which it isn't, okay, is used to just change the impedance presented to the transmitter. That's it. We want a 50 ohm load going to an antenna. That's what we want. And we want the radio to be happy there at 50 ohms. So the problem is antennas aren't 50 ohms. That's the problem. Most antennas don't present a good impedance. So a matching unit is needed to help to make the radio happy. All an antenna matching unit does is to change the impedance presented to the transmitter so the transmitter will be able to send as much power out to the tower as possible. Keep in mind, even though that happens, sometimes, and in fact most times, there's a lot of power still left on the coax or the feeder between your radio and the tower. It ends up getting burned up as heat. That's what happens, okay? Next, a radio signal that is amplitude modulated, meaning AM, contains the carrier, an upper and lower sideband, okay? So like the bologna sandwich, remember? Bread, those pieces are the sidebands. Bologna is your carrier, okay? Remember, the bologna sandwich illustration will help you in the UK just as it does here in the US. Amplitude modulation contains the carrier on both, in the middle, and then an upper and lower sideband on the sides. So think of it like bologna sandwich or whatever your favorite sandwich is, cheese, whatever. You've got your meat or cheese in the middle, and you got your sidebands. That's your bread on both sides. Remember that, and you'll be golden. We're looking at antenna now. Let's take a look. Which antenna is this? This antenna radiation pattern is actually a half-wave dipole. That's what it is. So when you have a figure 8 like this, it's because the antenna fires off broadside. Now that means not from the wires. If you're looking straight down the wire forward, it wouldn't fire it that way. It would fire it off the sides of the wire. So this radiation pattern is typical of a dipole antenna. Okay? Next question on the United Kingdom intermediate. It's recommended that the suffix slant P, also known as slash or portable P, whatever, may be used with your call sign whilst operating from a temporary location. In which of the following circumstances would this be applicable? This is one of those ones you probably should memorize. Okay, it's not from a friend's house, and this could confuse, I think, every ham in the entire. I don't care where you are, it's going to confuse you in the world probably, unless you're in the UK. Just saying. Okay. The answer is on Scout Camp. Yep. Slant P. Scout Camp. That's the answer. So, okay. There you go. It's just one of those things. It was one of those answers like, really? Okay. I guess we're good. That's the right answer. We'll go with it. Next. Your neighbor tells you that you're causing interference on his old black and white set. Doggone, he's watching I Love Lucy. He's real angry. He's like, what the heck? I'm sick of this garbage. Why are you doing this?
What's going on here?
Yes, he's mad at you, okay? You advise him, hey, wait a minute. He's just like, this is causing me interference. You'd be correct in telling him that a new television set is, this is right where things go south. Oh my gosh. Okay, so your neighbor's got a black and white set still, and he's watching digital television through an analog converter. Okay, and he's having problems because he's picking up your CQ calls. And you say to him, mate, a new television set is likely to be less affected because it will actually meet the current EMC immunity standards. And then your friend says, go buy me that television set. My gosh, that set cost me $200 back in 1962. Yep. All right, next on the UK intermediate, this is the middle level license for the United Kingdom. It's important. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just trying to say, in ways you can remember it so it's funny. It's, humor and learning make a difference. They do. It's been proven to. Next question. The principal reason for wearing eye protection when drilling or sawing is to prevent any bits of metal or swarf, which may be thrown up, from getting into your eye. Remember, when they're talking about safety things in the UK, they're talking about things to protect you. So when it comes to tools and stuff like that, it is to protect you from being hurt on, I think, every one of those questions. Remember the one that protects you. You'll have the right answer. All right, last ones on the intermediate today. In order to produce direct current from the alternating current, leaving a transformer, you could use a diode. Yep, a diode. A diode stops electrical current. That's what it does. It makes it stop one way and continue the other. So it just basically blocks everything. Just remember, if you want to produce direct current from alternating current, leaving a transformer, use a diode. However, most of us just use a commercial product, but that's the correct electrical answer. Take a close look before I let it go. There you go. All right, last question today on the United Kingdom intermediate. This is the middle-level license, gets you a lot more power and more frequencies. In talking about the relative operational advantages of CW, which is Morse code, SSB, which is sideband. That's what we use for microphone here, which is sideband. It's SSB, by the way, for folks who are outside ham radio, because it's called single sideband. It refers both to upper and lower sideband, okay? Also FM, which is frequency modulation. Now that I've laid all of those things out, let's reword the question. In talking about the relative operational advantages of Morse code, single sideband, and frequency modulation, which of the following statements is incorrect? So here's one of those things that one of these things doesn't belong here. The answer is D. Single sideband offers the highest quality speech. Anyone who's been in the listening hobby, whether it be shortwave, medium wave, or ham, can tell you that if you don't have the right equipment, it sounds horrible. Sideband sounds like a whole warbly mess. You can't understand a single word. That's 20 questions today, and I thank you so much for paying up with my sense of humor. Thank you. Okay, we're going to quickly say goodbyes because I've got to hurry and get myself, my brother, to a shot, which isn't the most fun thing, but we're going to get ourselves immunized today from that coronavirus. So we'll say some goodbyes to all of you, wherever you may be. I'm interested to find out tomorrow, and thank you very much. K6, this is Key 6 UI here down in California. Secret Coding episode should be interesting. Heard they use stenography to embed codes and images broadcast on ham. You're going to learn a lot about the clandestine world of radio tomorrow on Ham Radio Live. Special edition, Thursday. It'll be at 20 UTC. Please join me here on the channel. Until then, wherever you are in the world, I wish I had time for a sign-off, but I am truly out of time. God bless you. Thank you for watching from Oregon. 73s, everybody, from Larry and Gunter and Tom and everyone from around the world. Goodbye, everybody.